You've probably heard me talk about Adobe's brand new AI tool, Firefly, and just how cool the different features are that they're currently building out. But there's another side of the conversation we need to be having. You know, we love to have everyone's favorite IP and entertainment lawyer, Tony, on the show to talk the legal side of AI and entrepreneurship. And today we're breaking down Firefly with Tony to talk about the good, the bad, the in between, and whether or not we're going to be able to use some or all of these features legally inside of our businesses and get that content copyright protected so that no one can steal what we are creating through these AI generators. This is a fascinating conversation, so jump in.
My name is Tony Iliakostas. I'm an adjunct professor of entertainment law and IP at New York Law School, and I have an Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok account called The IP Professor that is dedicated to all things intellectual property.
We have breaking news in the world of artificial intelligence in that Adobe has announced a brand new AI tool called Firefly. This is a brand new tool that is not only going to protect artists' rights, allow us to train via our own artwork and creations, but it is also going to allow us to change and manipulate photos, videos, text, and more. Today, we're going to be breaking down the legal side with Tony. So, Tony, let's jump in and have the conversation first on how they are actually going to be protecting artists' rights.
So first off, let me say kudos to Adobe for really kicking it up and almost like sticking it to the system.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, there are innovative softwares like Midjourneys and, of course, Dolly. And, to some extent, they raise a lot of ethical concerns. I know that Stability AI is in the midst of a massive copyright infringement lawsuit with Getty because the questions that have speculated with a lot of these AI platforms that generate artwork is where are they getting their source material? Because a computer
Mhm.
itself can't just organically create that material without really having
Right.
something as a reference point. And sure enough, Stability was sourcing images from Getty, and quite
Yep.
visibly, you could see the Getty iconic watermark that was used in the AI generated artwork. Massive air quotes on that one. So
Mhm.
they're in the middle of a lawsuit for that reason. So honestly, for Adobe to come up with a platform that is not only innovative and ethical, serious kudos points to Adobe on that one. Now, in terms of the platform itself, the way Adobe has framed it is that they're going to use stock footage or stock imagery rather, as well as anything that is public domain and content that has been licensed to Adobe. So the most important ones that I want to stress are the licensed content and the public domain aspect of things. Licensed content, they're probably working with photographers, freelancers, other people that are part of the Adobe network that are aggregating or providing either certain rights managed or royalty free imagery that can be used on these platforms, on Adobe Firefly. And that's great because now you've got a completely kosher way of using actual, legitimate copyrighted material that can be manipulated into something that is, kind of like into something else based on whatever prompt you put into Adobe Firefly. For fun, I did yesterday. Give me create a scene of mountains with pink snow, and it did just that. It was unbelievable what it was able to generate. So certainly the fact that Adobe now has licensed content that it's going to use as the source, and that clearly shows that it has a zero tolerance policy for any pirated content to be the basis of creating AI generated artwork. Equally, the public domain aspect of things also is very intriguing and also a wonderful thing to have. For anybody that doesn't know, we've talked about it before, but public domain, basically under the context of copyright law, means that the term of copyright protection has expired. Over the course of a variety of different years or different acts of copyright law, there have been evolving terms. So, for example, under the Copyright Act of 1909, copyright lasted for 28 years. And then, if you wanted to renew it for an additional 28 years, you had to renew it through the US Copyright Office. And then, basically, after the whole 56-year total, it enters the public domain. Today, the standard is the life of the author plus 70 years after the death of the author. So, and some content from like the 1930s and 40s has been grandfathered into the current Copyright Act of 1976 terminology. All that to say, now that you have content that is expired, if there's that doesn't have any term whatsoever, there is no claim of ownership to that content whatsoever. Now you have the opportunity to make something out of that. So
Yeah.
let's be real. I'm sure that maybe when 2024 rolls around, which is, we're only in March, so it's going to fly by before our eyes. The moment Steamboat Willie enters the public domain, maybe there's a world where the Steamboat Willie cartoon will be available on Adobe Firefly, and you could be able to manipulate it into something new. And unless something, ungodly and in a very quick fashion happens between now and December 31st to change copyright law to extend the copyright of Steamboat Willie, which is, I think, is personally not going to happen. Now basically the copyright for that is going to expire. It's going to enter the public domain, and now people can have access to that type of material and be able to manipulate it in whatever fashion they see fit. Of course, you have to bear in mind, the other aspects of IP, because I know that Disney has been very proactive in registering the Steamboat Willie caricature as trademarks in a variety of classes of goods and services. So use caution, I guess. But either way, content that is free and clear, the public domain, that has no claim of copyright ownership whatsoever, you have access to that in Adobe Firefly. Total win. Again, just further cementing how Adobe generally as a company has a zero tolerance policy for using pirated content as the basis for making AI generated artwork.
And I think there's so many fascinating sides to what they're doing with licensure of the content they are using to train their AI. They specifically said that they are going to monetize for the artists who are allowing their content to be used to train this AI. That is something they're working on right now. They are using things from inside of their stock imagery. So if you have licensed your stuff inside of Adobe Stock, it will be accessible for this training, but you can also opt out of this. And they very specifically said, Tony, that they will have a do not train system inside of what they're doing so that artists, outside artists, can say, here's my metadata. This cannot be used to train your AI, because they've also stated that they are going to allow artists to input their content to train your own specific AI to create your content in your style for yourself. And that means with that do not train metadata, you will be able to put that in and say nobody else can take this and steal it. So a company like Disney would be able to input all of their content and say you cannot use this even if somebody else inputs it. So Tony, what are your thoughts on this do not train metadata label?
I love it. Honestly, I think that gives power back to the artists. And listen, I'm a pro creator, pro artist type of guy, because I myself am one, and I work with them constantly in my day to day. And I understand that at the end of the day, there's a great deal of effort, time, even money that goes into making films, television shows, uh, photos, artwork, any aspect of a work of authorship that's governed under the Copyright Act of 1976. So I get it. I understand how important it is to not only make the work, but also to protect it and enforce your rights. And so by having prompts like do not train, you're basically showing that, yes, you will make the content available to some extent, but you are creating certain parameters and limits so that others will not, take that content and mimic it and claim it as their own. So that's even another, prohibitive way on Adobe's part. And again, kudos to them to prevent any further, infringing activity through, their platform. They really are taking seriously the fact that at the end of the day, everybody should try to exercise some degree of originality, and we shouldn't be relying on other people's content to do so.
And I love that they are giving us the ability to train our own AIs. We've had conversations before on the channel all about the fact that we cannot copyright AI generated content because it does not have that human input into it. With this in mind, now that we have the ability to train based solely off of our own creations and our own content, could this have implications in whether or not we're going to be able to copyright content if it is solely created from our own creations?
That's an excellent question. And I think that this is going to likely be a case of first impression before the US Copyright Office if something like this came up. Because at the end of the day, if you train the AI system to create a stroke of, let's say, the letter B in your specific style, or if you train the AI to stroke, let's say, shadowing in a very specific manner, the question now becomes, is that human authorship or is that AI generated activity? At the source of it, it sounds like it's substantial human involvement because the AI has no basis to go off of. You have to give it that source material. That is who it is. So then it's kind of like no different than I remember once upon a time, and I think it's still a thing where on Photoshop you could create a pattern of you could pick a brush and you could pick like a certain pattern of brushes and like do that. And then
Yeah.
basically from whatever creation you did on the canvas, you can generate a brush based on that. So it's kind of, I kind of equate it to that same extent. You're providing prompts, almost like coding, if you will, the system
Yeah.
to create your style of artistry, whatever way you would, animate or do detailing on a photo, what have you. So I think that on its face, facially, and this is just my opinion, I think that this is the one thing that could challenge the whole AI human authorship conundrum that the US Copyright Office is currently dealing with. Now, is that to say that that's going to happen? Will the US Copyright Office concede on that point? Not necessarily. The US Copyright Office, like any other federal agency, operates in a very bureaucratic fashion. So they may have a zero tolerance policy across the board for anything related to AI, and they would care less if you trained the system first. They may just say, well, you still trained AI, therefore it's not getting copyright registration. But I think they have to look at the big picture scheme of it. But again, just on its face, it feels like this could be the thing that could kind of create a unique carve out and maybe actually get copyright registration. So kind of the thing to see. And if there is somebody out there that will do that and actually, train the AI and try to register, create a work and then register that in the US Copyright Office, I'd be very, very curious to see what the Copyright Office is going to say on something like that.
I'm really interested because we know with these new tools, we are going to be able to impact things like imagery and photos, text, but also video. My initial thought would be, wouldn't this be somewhat similar to how Disney and other companies are now animating their new movies by creating those 3D models and then prompting them to do things? If we are then able to change and manipulate and create video through this, do you feel like that's something that could be argued again when it comes to copyright?
Yeah, that again, I think that this is probably going to be something that the U.S. Copyright Office is going to have to ponder on very, very, closely. Now, to your point about Pixar using 3D software and creating these 3D models that then make certain movements. What's unique about a situation like that is, at the end of the day, the software is kind of no different than the stencil, paper that older animations from Disney used to do. So the model has kind of changed in animation, where now it's an Apple Pencil or a pencil, an electronic pencil that you can animate from a touchpad, and you can create certain movements and basically generate 3D animation. But the software is the tool. It's basically the way that you're fixating that work of authorship. At the end of the day, the human author is still creating a rendition of Remy from Ratatouille. They're creating their own rendition of Buzz and Woody from Toy Story. They're creating their own rendition of Maui from Moana. At the end of the day, all these artists that are working at Disney have a vision of what they want the characters to look like. They have concept art that they've created, and they're bringing to life through software that is just a platform, a canvas for them to do it on. In that same light, that's going to be the question that the U.S. Copyright Office is going to have to ponder on and consider. Is Firefly and the platform that you can use as by extension, like let's say Photoshop or Illustrator, what have you, that you train this AI system to do all these, different styles of animation or different styles of touch-ups. The act of you training the AI and doing it all on a Adobe specific platform, is the U.S. Copyright Office going to view that as a tool or as the substitute for the human author? That's going to be probably the point of contention. I don't want to say necessarily divide the U.S. Copyright Office, but certainly make them think long and hard about, at the end of the day, what is a tool and what is essentially the replacement for the actual human author. So I think truly this will be, I hate to make it sound like so grim, but it will be a moment of reckoning, I guess, for the U.S. Copyright Office, because every head will probably turn into the cartoon train whistle if we're going to keep with the cartoon theme going.
I love it. And you did mention that they are currently working on integrations for Photoshop, for InDesign, and for Premiere. And so we are going to start to see, as they are doing iterations of this AI tool, this implication on apps that they already have access to. Now, we are going to do some spin off episodes on these, especially if you are a photographer using Photoshop. Stay tuned, hit that subscribe and notification bell because you do not want to miss these. I'm really excited to have this conversation because photographer here. But if you've got questions on this, go ahead and drop those down below. Tony, anything else we need to know about the legal side of potentially using Firefly in the future?
Like I said, I think that there's a lot of great things to come from this release of this product. If you're a creator yourself and you want to opt into this program, I think it's very important to make sure that you read carefully Adobe's terms and conditions, just so that you, the artist, know exactly what you're signing up for. Based on what we're hearing from the press releases and the coverage that we're getting from the media on this, it sounds like this is going to be a very artist-friendly type of program. But either way, reading and it's combing through every last point of the terms and conditions is going to be important for you as the creator. And if you need to consult with a lawyer, by all means, please do so. And then if you're on the other aspect of the creator space, if you're the one actually using Firefly, that then you want to try to generate AI generated artwork in the lawful manner, have fun with it. I think still we're in this space with artificial intelligence where it truly is the wild, wild west, because we don't have clear legislation on the books on this matter. So I think I'm speaking pretty candidly when I say take it all with a grain of salt. But truly, I think I think we're headed in the right direction. And I know that I would hope to God that at least maybe there's one AI CEO out there watching this. And if you are, if you work in artificial intelligence in some capacity, whether you're in the upper echelon of management or low and you're like in the engineer space, I really, really think and I hope that this is a wake up call that companies can succeed in the AI space if it's done ethically. And I think that we have to bear in mind that copyright infringement is copyright infringement is copyright infringement. Stability AI and Midjourney are the clear examples of this coming to fruition. And so if you think that you're absolved from copyright infringement, think twice, because I think that the stability one is just utterly insane. That's going to be an insane lawsuit that's going to boil down. Obviously, the other broader landscape with AI still very much open and up in the air, but a lot of things to consider. Very exciting time as somebody who's an IP enthusiast and a practitioner in this space, but as somebody who's also a creator, equally exciting. So really excited to see what comes up. I've been saying the word excited a lot, but it truly is a very wonderful time to see a program like this come out. And I can only see this just getting better from here.
And if you want more of the exciting breaking news on Firefly and in the world of AI, go ahead and give us a follow and drop your questions down below. Tony is coming back for more legal oversight when it comes to working with artificial intelligence and keeping you protected in the entrepreneurial space. So we would love to get your questions answered, and make sure that you are following along for even more episodes, tutorials, and breaking news on how you can be doing this brand new Adobe AI feature and using it inside of your business to grow, save time and effort, maybe even make a little bit of money and enhance your life as somebody who is creating in this space. We will see you in the next episode. But before we go, Tony, where can everybody find you?
You can find me on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at the IP Professor. And you can check out my brand new entertainment law podcast called End Scene on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
We're clearly thrilled with the world of AI and how we can be using this legally and ethically inside of our businesses. So now it's time to hit that subscribe and notification bell, because we're breaking down exactly how you can be leveraging this inside of your business to save you time and effort, but still keep your content protected. So as breaking news rolls out and as more tools are made available to us, we are going to continue with tutorials and breakdowns so you know exactly what to use and how to use it wisely inside of your businesses, as well as daily videos helping you navigate the world of social media marketing, content creation, and saving time and effort so you can make more money online but spend less time doing it. We'll see you in the next episode.